congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism; Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together; and Drum, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all episode of The View. The View is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspectives. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of our writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian in your life. Enjoy.
Greetings, beloved, and welcome to the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, also known as The View or The VU, our weekly talk show brought to you by the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We understand that our audio might be wonky today. We think that the interwebs in New York and Pennsylvania are cold because it is cold and windy, and we're going to do our best to come to you, and we hope that you will interact with us live and in days and weeks to come on Facebook and YouTube, where our videos get posted. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, 1/3 of the lead ministry team at your Church of the Larger Fellowship. I'm coming to you from Peekskill, New York, which is about 35 miles north of New York City, not upstate New York. We had a lively conversation before we went on the air about it's upstate New York, and I'm firmly in the suburbs of New York City in the Hudson Valley of New York, where it is windy and cold but sunny today, and where my child, who is back to school after 2 days of the mystery pediatric fever, will beg me to let her play outside when she gets home.
Oh, God.
She will get home and it will be 22 degrees and windy as fuck. And she will say, please let me play outside. Please, I'll wear my gloves, please.
12:04, and it was Michael.
So how are you, DC?
I am doing okay. It is 22 degrees here in central Pennsylvania on the historic land of the Susquehannock people. I am deep. It is just cold. damn cold, the kind of cold that makes my fingers ache, and your skin dry out.
Yep.
And here in central Pennsylvania, there's a sort of religious thing happening. There's a revival happening today because of the Orange Bowl, because Penn State is playing in the Orange Bowl.
Yes.
And that's about an hour and a half west of me. And I was talking with a friend earlier, and I said, I grew up not near Indiana, but Catholic. And so I have this thing in my head that says, thou shalt never bet against Our Lady.
And for those of you who don't know anything about college football, Penn State is playing Notre Dame.
Yes, Notre Dame. Yep, which is, Our Lady of Notre Dame. So yeah, never. So I may just watch Jeopardy and call it good, because maybe I'll root for the bands.
Yeah.
But, yeah, central Pennsylvania, like it's gonna look here like it does in Green Bay whenever there's a football game. Like there's just nobody on the streets. Like everybody's at the game or watching the game. Yeah.
Probably because so they're playing in the Orange Bowl.
Right, which makes me think it's someplace warm.
Probably, yeah. That
Florida.
would be Miami.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be nice.
The Orange Bowl is in Miami. That I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
Unless the stadium known as the Orange Bowl is in Miami.
Okay. So yeah. So there's sort of a revival feeling going around here in central Pennsylvania, and the grocery stores all have get your beer and your purple jerseys and your everything else for the game tonight, and nachos and all of that stuff.
The question is, do they sell pierogies in Penn State colors? Because I know that, like, if the Steelers are in the playoffs, they do sell black and yellow pierogies in Pittsburgh.
I would be surprised if somebody somewhere is not selling them. I haven't seen them.
Pierogies you haven't seen yet.
But I don't look for pierogies because they don't taste.
I'm clutching my mysterious pearls.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, they don't taste. They don't taste.
Well, if you saute the
dough wrapped around mashed potatoes, like what the hell?
The great pierogi gate argument of the VU 2025. Welcome.
Sorry, you just lost all of your Polish viewers. Sorry. Oh well.
Welcome, 25 beloved Darby. We are happy the VU is back as well. Aisha and Chris are out today, and we'll be back. We hope next week.
See if they leave us unsupervised again.
Once they watch this show, they will never be out again, and that will be great. So,
oh my goodness!
Our broadcast producer is also back with us.
Yay, LJ!
Great, because it means that I'm not clicking random things and seeing what happens on the screen right now. And LJ notes that they are marrying into a Polish family, so
God bless you, honey.
They have to be Team Pierogi to
bring hot sauce, babe. Man, well, I told you, I've said it before. Like I moved to central Pennsylvania. I was here 2 weeks. I thought I had COVID. Turns out, no, nothing tastes. I just live in central Pennsylvania.
And you're from Maine, so it's not
New England. So Maine, for all its whiteness, and it is very white, has a vibrant international community, certainly in the Portland area. Portland High School in Portland, Maine has like 200 different languages and dialects spoken among the students and faculty.
Did you grow up in the part of Massachusetts that has lots of Portuguese people?
Just north of there.
Okay.
Just north of there. The Portuguese, Marblehead was Portuguese. I was in Newburyport, which in my mind was Irish or French, or Greek, the Greek population there. But I don't know for all that, because we were so insular in our family. We, hardly ever socialized with anybody who didn't go to church with us.
Yep.
So there were a lot of Elizabeths and Margarets and and Marys and
They were married to
Bridgets.
my family because I'm Italian. So
Right. Yeah. You understand. So I'm sure there are other people in Newburyport, but like in my growing up, we just did, yeah. So but I after I left home, I also taught myself how to cook, and I learned for me, cooking is a lot like building stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it, and a lot of times I can figure out how to do that thing. And so it's always sort of been a challenge and an exciting adventure, which was not what I was raised with necessarily.
And I like that analogy too, because there's like a framework that you put things in, but you can express yourself.
Right. And cooking is art. Baking is chemistry. You have to have measurements, and you have to have the right kind of things. And if the butter's not warm enough or cold enough, it's in a bad mood, and all that stuff. So I'm
going to say, as someone who loves baking, that you get to a point in baking that as long as you know the chemistry, like you can win.
You can do the artistic part, right? Yeah.
Like I can wing a banana bread recipe, and everyone's like, "What?"
Nope.
I've just been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
So you're here watching The View, beloveds, with Darby on YouTube. Yay! We please introduce yourselves in the chat and say hi if you're watching us live. Or if you're not watching us live, please introduce yourselves and say hi, and we'll see those comments later.
Yeah.
We usually start with a UU roundup,
right?
To talk about what's going on in the world of Unitarian Universalism, and the one thing I know that's going on in the world of Unitarian Universalism that we could actually talk about for 3 minutes.
You and I can talk about anything for an hour, Michael. Go ahead.
Well, there are a couple things. We could talk about it. It's just whether it's appropriate on The View. Lots of things we could talk about.
I just tripped over that bar. Jesus.
Congregations across Unitarian Universalism are recertifying their membership. It's something that they do every January. It's due the beginning.
Can you explain that? Because I see it come through my email, and I have been blessed to have people and staff and administrators who are like, "Oh yeah, no, I do that," and I'm just like, "Thank you." What is that about?
Every year, every congregation in Unitarian Universalism has to certify their membership to the UUA, basically their membership numbers. And it used to be that fair share giving was calculated off of that, but we also certify what our budget numbers are, which is what fair share giving to our association is on now. But the one thing that's important that is based on the number of members for most congregations is delegates to General Assembly.
Right.
At least lay delegates, just professional delegates, ministers in fellowship, community serving congregations, ministers who are affiliated community ministers, and religious educator delegates are not based on membership, but lay delegates or non-professional delegates to General Assembly. The number of delegates that congregations are given is based on their certification.
Right. So if you have a bazillion members, you get more delegates than if you're a tiny little fellowship with like.
Yeah, there's a minimum. I think it's 2.
It's like the Senate. Everybody gets 2.
Everybody gets 2, but then you get 1 for every 50 members over 100. I think it's something like that. So 120 member congregation would get 3, and 175 member congregation would get 4. I think that's the way it works. The
Okay.
only congregation in all of Unitarian Universalism that does not get more delegates because we get more members is the Church of the Larger Fellowship, because the number of delegates that we are awarded is fixed in the UUA bylaws.
And the hell? It's in the bylaws?
It's in the UUA bylaws.
God, we put dumb shit in the bylaws.
Don't get me started. Well, you've gotten started. It is fixed at a number that is about half of the number of delegates that we would get if we got member
right, by the hundreds. Right. Yeah.
So we are shorted in our ability to have delegates by about half. At the Church of the Larger Fellowship, I feel a certain way about that.
I bet,
especially since those people are representing our over 1,900 incarcerated.
Right. Exactly.
Assemblymen. I feel a certain way about that. And
I bet.
Congregations are certifying their annual membership.
Okay.
And part of that certification, you say, here's what my membership number is, here's what our budget is. They ask questions. And it's a way for the UUA. Why is the delegate cap a justifiable thing, Nicole? Nicole Thibodeau asks, why is that? Because it passed the General Assembly and got put into the UUA bylaws. And I don't actually think there's a justification for it, but someone might argue with me out there, and they would be wrong. So the UUA, as part of this recertification, asks questions, and it's a way for them to get data. And some of those questions are about the services the congregations are using and how useful they find them, which is they're really good questions. And as a minister, you might actually engage with the person. You might want to engage with the person in your congregation that does those, does the recertification. Tony Malloy, the executive director at CLF, does ours. And she knows all the membership number and the budget number and the blah, blah, blah. Like, she knows all the numbers, but she comes to the lead ministry team and the staff and says, which of these services have we used? How useful do we find them?
Okay.
Like, which, do we use Worship Web? Do we use consultants? Do we use
regional staff? Do we use
staff? Do we use
did we use the search process? Did we use
exactly?
Did somebody have questions about health insurance?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And how useful was the UUA's response to that is also part of that.
Okay.
It's a way for the UUA to know where they have to improve stuff, and it's very useful. But one of the things tacked all the way at the end of this now very long survey is whether congregations want to admit congregational study action issues to the GA agenda.
What the hell?
We will go into this. There is a view on which we had Cindy Landrum from the Commission on Social Witness explain this to us all. You can go back into the.
What was that? Congregational what?
What?
Congregational.
So the foundational statements of Unitarian Universalist social justice.
I want to know the title of the thing you just said.
I will. I'm going to get there. I promise you.
Okay.
The foundational statements of UU social justice, the things that change the policy of our association of congregations, are statements of conscience. Right? And statements of conscience are brought to the General Assembly only after a 3-year study action process. Right? And so the beginning of that process is that congregations need to agree what we're going to spend 3 years studying.
Oh, God. Our congregations, okay, all right.
We've studied many things, but at this General Assembly, we are going to pick a topic for congregations to engage with, hopefully, we hope,
Lord help
the next 3 years. And the UUA will help create resources for congregations to do this study and have these conversations. And from those conversations will come a statement of conscience that hopefully the General Assembly will pass. And so this fall, people in congregations were allowed to suggest, like to nominate, to propose.
Okay.
To propose. I think
Proposed. Sure.
Topics.
Right.
And those proposals had to include bibliographies and all sorts of things, and what might some of the ways in which we study this be, and all. They were fairly in-depth proposals, and there were 3 proposals.
Okay.
One of which was from the Church of the Larger Fellowship on abolition as faith formation.
We're talking prison abolition, yes?
Well, we're talking about abolition defined a little more broadly than just prison abolition. To look at, for example, the Unitarian Universalist history of with regard to the abolition of slavery and enslavement, and how
Theodore Parker.
What? Yeah, I mean, there's a whole rich Unitarian and Universalist history of
Sure.
Abolitionism,
Right.
and theologies that were embedded in that. When the debate in the United States was about abolishing enslavement, and we thought we did that, except that the U.S. Constitution, when we abolish slavery, has an exception in it. The amendment to the U.S. Constitution that abolished slavery says slavery is abolished except as punishment for a crime. So except as punishment for a crime.
Except as punishment for a crime.
So incarcerated people are legally enslaved in the United States.
And is it any surprise to anybody the racial makeup of the vast majority of incarcerated folks in the U.S.?
That's right. So, and that's on purpose. It's on purpose, folks.
It's on purpose. It's on purpose.
So, we want congregations to study that. We want congregations to study that. So, we've proposed this. So we're talking about abolition of slavery. We're talking about abolition of violence. We're talking about restorative justice practices. And then we're going to be talking about the abolition of the prison industrial complex, and where do we stand theologically as a faith movement on that. So the bar that needs to be crossed now is that a majority of the congregations who certify their membership have to agree to put it on the GA agenda to be one of the things that people get to vote on at General Assembly.
Is this in the survey itself?
Yes, it is it's like the last question.
Okay, and is it like a multiple choice thing? Is it like these congregations have suggested these things, or here's a thing that we want to look at?
It is. It is. Yeah, it is. These are the 3 proposals.
Okay.
Do you want to admit them to the agenda? Yes or no on each one.
Oh, okay.
So you can vote yes, in which case there are 3 things that will come to the General Assembly, and delegates will get to vote on them.
Okay.
In Baltimore and online.
Right.
You can vote no, and if a majority of congregations who certify vote no, that thing never comes to GA.
Okay.
It doesn't even get considered as one of the possibilities.
So the choices are 1 of them could come, 2 of them could come, 3 of them could come.
Or 0 of them could come.
Or 0 could come.
Anywhere between 0 and 3, but only 1 of them will pass the General Assembly.
Okay.
So in order for us as Church of the Larger Fellowship to be able to make our case about why we think this is the thing congregations should spend the next 3 years studying, it has to be admitted to the GA agenda.
Right. Okay.
That is the bar that we are seeking to cross now. So if you out there in VU-land have anything to do with your congregation's annual certification system, please encourage whoever it is that fills out that survey to vote yes on abolition as faith formation, which is the very first one, because we titled it with a word that starts with AB, and they put them in alphabetical order.
You ain't dumb.
Aardvarks and abolition.
Nicole is asking. I have to ask this: is the U? And this is regards to
Well,
the
you can
number of
throw you on-
delegates, the number of delegates that the CLF gets.
Yep.
And Nicole asks, is the UUA concerned that incarcerated folks will get a vote? I can't swear here, right? Well, I mean, you can. We do, but
I
don't think that's it.
That's
I don't think that's it. I think my gut tells me they don't want any one cohort able to put a wrench in the process or able to.
I don't know. I think that
I don't know.
if I had to guess at a motive, and I don't like to guess at motives, but if I had to guess at a motive, it would probably be the assumption that CLF members were by and large also affiliated with other congregations. You know, for example, we have a lot of religious professional members who are delegates in other congregations.
Right.
And so that the CLF membership is sometimes a section of the CLF membership is represented in other ways.
Okay, so
but
the Venn diagram gets a little squidgy.
But that notion is antiquated in the era of actual online community existing at CLF.
When did this policy go through?
Oh, it's been in the UUA bylaws for a long time.
Okay.
So
my guess is it's the privileging of the brick and mortar congregations.
Yeah, the earliest iteration I could find of the UUA bylaws had this clause. So,
God, we put dumb shit in the bylaws.
It is, and hopefully it will get removed. There's been a lot of talk about revising our bylaws, and I've put that out there to to co-moderator Meg Riley, Minister Emerita of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, who is the co-moderator in charge of the process of revisiting the bylaws. That maybe you just need to delete that. You just need to delete the line. You don't need to replace it with anything, because if you just delete it,
just strike it.
We get member delegates. And in 1980, let's assume it passed in 1980. I don't know. Honestly, the earliest I could find was like the 1980 bylaws or something. In 1980, we had maybe 20 incarcerated members, maybe 10. And it's now over 1,900. Right. And those folks do not get proportional votes.
No, that's bullshit.
And so there's a justice case.
That's bullshit.
That is really super easy to make.
Yep.
So this is to say the one thing I know going on in Unitarian Universalism right now is that congregations are certifying their membership. And if you're involved in that, we would like you to vote yes on abolition as faith formation, just to put it on the GA agenda.
And what's the name of the thing again? It's the Congregational which what?
Congregational Study Action Issue. CSAI in the great alphabet soup of Unitarian Universalism.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And it is, I will get you the number of the question. 2025. Oh, it is congregational poll. It is the last thing on the
congregational
and it says, vote on the following congregational study action issues your congregation thinks should be added to the 2025 General Assembly agenda for 4 years. 4 years of study, reflection, and action. So, 4 years. I thought it was 3. I guess.
And 4 years from now, the group that has been designated to study this and make a proposal, make a recommendation, will make a recommendation, and everybody will throw a hairy fit saying they never knew anything about it, and who said this is a good thing. And
and there are 3 very interesting topics, all of which are worthy of study. I just want to say that the 3 topics are abolition as faith formation, fat liberation, building justice and inclusion for larger bodies, and housing, diversity, equity, and inclusion. All eminently worthy of study.
Yes.
and statements. I believe that abolition, it is time for us to do that. I think we probably have enough. Well, I'll make the case. I think we probably have enough statements regarding access to safe and affordable housing to allow us to do social justice work toward that. But
I think for it to be, I don't know. If it's going to be a real social justice intense thing, it needs to be brave.
yes,
It needs to be bold. It doesn't need to be, yeah, we're going to pass another sort of really non-threatening statement about motherhood and apple pie, right?
I am totally with you there.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you there. But that's why I was part of the team that put together Abolition is Faith Formation.
Excellent. So for what it's worth, also, folks, registration is open for General Assembly right now. So, and honestly, I don't remember if I think there is a like register now at one price, register later at. I mean, that's usually how it goes. I don't know. Like, don't quote me on that, but I think. Also, housing is open too. You can register for housing.
Yeah, housing goes quickly.
Yeah, it does. Although I did see something interesting that it looks like they're going to be partnering with some local universities to offer dormitory housing if there's a significant enough demand.
I think they were thinking about that, and there wasn't enough demand, but maybe there's.
I think that might get revisited once the hotel rooms are all gone.
So the lowest rate goes through March 31st.
Okay.
And then there's a second rate, April 1st to May 15th, and there's an after May 15th rate.
After May 15th is the procrastinator's tax.
That's right. And this is to say, there you can register for $0 if you are a business-only online delegate. You don't get access to the programs. You get access only to the delegate platform and the voting.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you would get access to the debate on the congregational study action issue if you were an online delegate.
Do you get access to worship services?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just the business.
That sounds shitty.
It's just what happens through the delegate platform. I mean, there are some things that are public for everyone, like Sunday morning worship is public for everyone. So yes.
Okay.
And you will, if you're a Church of the Larger Fellowship member out there, you will be hearing soon about the application process to become one of the Church of the Larger Fellowship's delegates. And you don't have to be in Baltimore. You don't have to be in Baltimore to do that.
Right.
Full registration is either online or in person.
Mm-hmm.
There are reduced rates for 18 to 24-year-olds, aspirant and candidate ministers, retired ministers. And there is the possibility to register for $0 as a business-only delegate. It's $150, but there's an opt-out.
Right.
You can opt out.
And there are also some scholarships available for first-time attendance and people who are first-timers from a variety of different traditionally targeted groups, people of color and immigrants and like all kinds of stuff. So
you can use the promo code Inclusion100 if you are BIPOC, LGBTQ plus, or disabled. And reduce the cost of your registration by $100. And there are 100 of those available. So.
Okay, and LJ writes that they're hoping to make a drum village for members, families, friends at GA. Wonderful this year. That's going to be awesome.
Of course, is our organization for BIPOC Unitarian Universalists.
Right.
So there are all sorts of ways to connect with people. We will need delegates.
Mm-hmm.
whether we have 30 whatever or 60 whatever, we won't have 60 whatever this year because
Right.
we haven't changed that bylaw yet. So it's 30 something that we're capped at, and we will need delegates, and we look forward to people applying.
So Darby writes that dorm housing is off the market now. And I can kind of understand this, as universities don't tend to be right smack in the middle of downtown, which is prime commercial real estate, which cities and counties and states like to tax, and universities are usually tax exempt. So they're further away, and so the distance seemed to be too much. People didn't want to be spending that much time on.
We're going to put people in scare quotes for those of you who are listening on our podcast. People are not interested in it. There were not enough people who said they would be willing to take a bus for 40 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So 40 minutes. Yeah, that does kind of stink. I mean, I had to drive an hour this morning to go get a piece of legal paperwork, and my drive started at 7:15. So I have lots of unpleasant feelings right now about long trips, particularly because that one started just too damn early. But
Nicole says, I'm guessing that people don't live in Los Angeles. Yeah, that 40 minutes gets you from West Hollywood to Santa Monica in Los Angeles. Speaking of
which,
our hearts are with the people in West Hollywood and Santa Monica and Pasadena and Altadena who
Pasadena is gone.
Altadena is gone. Pasadena is the next town getting hit. Pacific Palisades is gone. My brother lives in West Hollywood and has evacuated as of this morning. And it's really scary.
Yeah, it is. I heard a person on the news say, just a couple weeks ago we had the Rose Parade right through here, and now it's devastation. Like everything is burnt down.
Yeah,
everything. And yeah, our hearts go out to them. Gee whiz. And don't forget, the UUA does have a disaster relief fund that you can donate to, and they give out money as long as they have it, and when they run out, they stop giving it out. And they do partner with UU churches and with on the ground organizations who know what they're doing. So that's a good thing.
And right now, as of this morning, none of the UU congregation's buildings were involved, but many members of Neighborhood Church in Pasadena and the UU Church in Santa Monica, especially, have been
lost their homes.
Have lost their homes.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You know what else we wanted to talk about today? Today, America laid to rest former President Jimmy Carter, who lived to be 100. He was, we were talking before, he was complex. He was, I think, one of the sort of standout points about his personality was his humility.
Mm-hmm.
He really wasn't a chest thumping kind of guy who liked to crow about stuff he accomplished, and I think that's what probably killed him. Like, as far as politically, he just wasn't that guy to go out and blow his own horn. He was just like, yeah, we're doing work and we're doing stuff, and there's good and there's bad, and we're doing what we can.
And I think he assumed that quiet, humble leadership would be popular with an American public that had been burned
by Nixon.
Yeah. Right? He assumed that I'm going to put on a sweater and lower the heat to save energy. People would go, oh, what a good idea, and not This is America. What the fuck are you thinking?
I know.
And
I know. And he put solar panels on the White House, and Ronald Reagan had them taken down on January 22nd. So
and this is not to say that his legacy as president or as past president, because his legacy as past president was even greater than his legacy as president.
Yep.
But it's not to say that either of those legacies is uncomplicated. I just want to put that out there. If you're about to get all up in our comments, if you're about to get all up in our comments telling us all the wonderful, horrible things that Jimmy Carter supported, he supported an American foreign policy that was the foreign policy of empire.
Yep.
Because he was the president of the empire.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't always good.
Yeah.
For every, he brought Israel and Egypt together until they came up with an agreement that has stood.
Yes.
All of these years.
And it withstood even after Anwar Sadat was killed.
Yep. And he was unable to have Israel treat Palestinian people any better.
No.
The folks in the American embassy in Tehran were taken hostage in his presidency.
Yep.
And his re-election campaign was largely derailed because Ronald Reagan sent people to Tehran to convince them not to release the hostages until after the election.
Yep.
Gee,
that doesn't seem at all familiar, does it?
Right. So, I want to say that his legacy is not uncomplicated.
Right.
And he tried really hard.
Yep.
He left Southern Baptist congregations because of the way the Southern Baptists treated women.
Yep, in 2000.
And then he pushed the liberal Baptists to be more open and accepting of LGBTQ people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he wasn't done.
Right. He taught Sunday school until about 10 years ago.
Right.
No, 5 years ago. He was in his 90s when he stopped teaching Sunday school.
So he lived an example that if more people lived, we'd be better off. Right? Not an uncomplicated, he was not a perfect human being.
Right.
He is.
One of my favorite things about him, every president and former president in the United States is entitled to 24/7 Secret Service protection for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I presume so do their spouses if they die, when they die, right? Like when Ronald Reagan died, Nancy still got protection.
I think so.
Right? So, but Jimmy they sent him home. They're like, you guys are underfoot. You won't build houses with us. You're just in the way. Go home. He's the only president to have done that. Unless you're going to, imagine telling this tree trunk of a guy with, that suspicious bulge under his arm and the little thing in his ear, look, either pick up a hammer or get out of the way. Yeah, they sent him home. Yep, they lived in their same little one-story ranch house in Plains, Georgia. Never went for the mansion thing. Never drove a big fancy car. Just, they were doing Habitat for Humanity stuff. I wonder if they provided security when he did international stuff. Maybe. I don't know.
Probably, though. There have been some interesting articles come out about how Bill Clinton was basically threatened by Jimmy Carter's international human rights work and basically made him stop. Look it up. I can't.
Bill Clinton was doing something, and the Carter Center said, "Bill, quit fucking this up."
No, Jimmy Carter asked the Clinton administration if he could have permission to. He got permission to negotiate a deal with North Korea. a peace deal with North Korea, and
Mhm.
that would lead to North Korea abandoning their nuclear program. And he got that permission, went to North Korea, negotiated the whole thing, came back, and Bill Clinton was basically threatened by the fact that Jimmy Carter was able to do that, and he killed it.
Oh,
So
why does Bubba gotta be Bubba all the damn time?
well, Jimmy Carter was so it's not an uncomplicated legacy, and he tried his best.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
he,
yeah, yeah.
he tried his best to. Um,
I mean, he's the perfect example of when you know more, you do more.
yeah,
When you know better, you do better. And he did all that he could with what he had as far as resources and knowledge when he had it, you know? Yeah. Was he perfect? Oh, hell no. I think he was the only president to ever do an interview with Playboy magazine.
I think that's right.
And one of the things I heard on the radio on my way to work this morning was he promised the American people, I will never lie to you. And historians to this date haven't been able to find really anything big that he may have misled anybody about. Look at this. See, we've only got 15 minutes left, 13 minutes left, right? We can talk about anything for as long as we like. The link for the UUA Disaster Relief Fund is in the comments. So if you want to check that out, if you'd like to learn more about it, or if you'd like to make a donation, you can do that with the link that's in the comments. So thank you all. Nicole Thibodeau, you know who else wore a cardigan is Mr. Rogers. That is true. Yeah.
I should go get a cardigan,
huh? I've never liked cardigans.
I don't particularly like them. I own one. I know where it is. I don't particularly like it.
I think I would wear one now if it was a good Irish knit, you know, with the leather buttons. Like I would wear that cardigan, but yeah. Also, I'm sort of my own tropical zone, so. So let's think. We want to talk about congregational poll. We did the Orange Bowl. We did California. We did Jimmy Carter. We did the congregational poll. We did. We noted that at 12:04, Michael said "fuck."
So no, we're not cardigan shaming.
We're not cardigan shaming. No.
Different people, different ways.
Yeah, no, they don't feel right on my body.
And I'll say, like, the way that my body tosses off heat.
Same.
A cardigan keeps the hot parts hot and the cold parts cold. It's like the McDLT of sweaters.
Right. It's like that. It's like a sweater vest. I don't need a sweater vest. What I need are just arms. Right?
So
this torso keeps itself warm.
The reason I don't like it is not a fashion statement choice. It's just the way it works on my body.
Right. Yep. Oh my God, McDLT. Oof.
Right,
that was a marketing disaster. Right up there with a 1/3 pound burger. Right? Because Americans wouldn't eat it because they thought it was less than a 1/4 pounder because Americans can't math.
People out there know about that?
What?
The 1/3 pound burger?
Yeah. I think it was Burger King came out with a 1/3 pound burger. Somebody came out with a 1/3 pound burger. And it just didn't go anywhere because people didn't get that 1/3 of a pound was more meat than 1/4 of a pound. That should have foretold the end of civilization right there.
It should have.
You know, that although the 70s sort of really should have done it. Just, you know, the amount of Aquanet. preferred weapon of drag queens everywhere, right?
Well, it's not something I ever had a need for.
Yeah, you and me both, right? That just shellac, and we could shine it. We could make it shine.
I like something. I am now bald enough. We can talk about bald people because we're the balding.
We're the bald ones now.
Of the view. Like being this bald is a little new to me. Like when I was a kid, I had thick curly hair and
sure, yeah.
And I'm now like trying to figure out how to moisturize my scalp
without making your hair all slimy.
So if you have ideas out there, like if any of you know bald people who successfully do this, how do you keep your scalp moisturized without making your hair slimy?
Right. And this past summer was the first time that I've had this little hair sufficient to get a sunburn.
Oh yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, that was a surprise I was not in favor of.
Caps are your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing to talk about is it is the 9th. It is 3 days past the January 6th anniversary of the storming of the Capitol by a bunch of fascist wannabes. I'll say wannabes because none of them, I think, really understands the full concept of fascism and how quickly they would be deemed undesirable and just for not being smart enough or whatever. But yeah. So we have to think about what's coming up in 11 days. 11 days will be the inauguration. And how are we going to handle that? And I think there's probably a lot of anxiety going around in our congregations, among our members, particularly among our friends who have are LGBTQ or parents who have queer or trans kids are suddenly. I've been hearing from folks who are looking for a new place to be. Like I can't stay in Oklahoma or I can't stay in Arizona. I can't stay in Texas with my kid, So we hold everybody in our prayers with that one. Go ahead.
I introduced in our last 7 minutes. This could be a whole topic. This might be this might be next week. Might be the spring VU preview.
Okay.
Lots of these things could be whole topics. Certainly, abolition will be
absolutely
throughout the spring. We'll bring it again and again in different ways. I introduced to the White Staff Caucus because at CLF we have a BIPOC staff caucus and a white staff caucus. Do the work that we need to do internally to engage together in multiracial justice building and liberation as an entire staff. I introduced the White Staff Caucus yesterday to ring theory, which you're probably familiar with. But ring theory is ring, R-I-N-G.
Okay.
It's become a popular way of understanding how we care for each other. And if you put the most affected people in the middle, the most affected people about any issue, about grief or justice or whatever, and have successive rings out of people who are less affected or less close to that.
Okay.
You care for the people in the rings that are closer, and you allow the people who are in the middle to dump out. So
dump out,
care in.
Yes.
Right. You know that model.
Yes.
I introduced this theory because we were talking about how white people respond to the enormous grief in UU BIPOC communities over the death of UU BIPOC leaders, especially the very premature death of UU BIPOC leaders. And we will, as we end our show, mourn the passing of Rhiannon Smith, who was
Yes.
a 35-year-old fabulous, vibrant UU young adult leader and guest on The View in previous years. But we were talking about how we participate in that, and right. So the people who are closest have to be the recipients of the care and not the recipients of the dump.
Yes.
And I think as we move into fascism,
Right.
whatever their version of fascism is, we have to keep that in mind, that there are going to be people who are going to be the targets. There are going to be people who are going to be the most at risk, who need the care, whose viewpoints need to be centered, whose safety needs to be centered. And those of us who are a couple rings out, like, I'm queer, but I've got enough money, just because I have a job and my husband has a job and we own a house.
Right.
Like, I have,
and you're white,
and I'm white, and I have and I'm able to pass as cisgender
and straight.
Walking down the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I have enough layers of privilege that I'm in an outer ring.
Right.
When my trans and queer and BIPOC siblings are made the target of things. And so I think it's a useful way of knowing, like, we need to be able to situate ourselves.
Right.
Based on the number of layers of privilege. And that not all of us are going to be equally threatened.
Right. And your place in those rings is going to change depending upon
That's right.
what particular thing you're looking at, whether you're looking at physical disability or whether you're looking at skin color or sexual orientation or gender or whatever else, right?
Right. And, if they come for marriage equality, like, yeah, it would be a financial hit to me, but like, come for my ability to be the legal parent of my child, then
oh hell,
you're going to get some resistance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they would do that 11 years into my being the legal parent of my child. But
I remember you scrambling out of GA to go get your new baby.
It is so funny how many people remember that much more clearly than I remember it. For those of you,
I think they announced it in the Church of the in the Service of the Living Tradition.
In the plenary session. I think I was on the UUA board.
Oh, that's
my
why.
daughter was born, and she was born during General Assembly in Louisville, Kentucky, and so I had to leave General Assembly to get to where she was being born. And I was in charge of business things on the agenda because I was on the board, and so other people had to do those business things and read the speeches I had written. I had prepared them well,
right? Yep.
I knew just in case, but they had to read the speeches I had written about the business items, even though I wasn't there.
Right.
And so when my child was born, I sent a picture of the first picture that was taken of me and Eric and together. I sent it to Ginny Corder, who was then the moderator,
right?
Association, and it got put up on the screen.
Yes, I remember that.
And Sarah Dan Jones led the plenary session, now called the general session,
right?
Singing "I Know This Rose Will Open."
Oh my God!
My new family, which I didn't know about until after it happened, because everyone was like, "Oh my God, that was so beautiful!" So
like, I'm gonna cry now.
I was a new parent and not getting any sleep, and like in the
I don't care about any damn rose. I want a nap.
Caring for this tiny helpless
person,
and y'all were singing, and like, so y'all have this memory that is so deep in like your bones, and like I wasn't there for that part.
No, you weren't.
It's so funny.
We sent you a whole lot of love, though.
Oh yes, I felt the love.
Yes,
I felt.
So listen, it's time.
It is time.
Do we have something scheduled for next week yet?
Next week we have members of the Church of the Larger Fellowship's nominating committee coming on to talk about what leadership and service look like in an online congregation.
Excellent. Excellent. That's going to be awesome.
So we hope that you will join us for that. We have some good guests scheduled in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
And we're looking forward to them. But until then,
leadership development is important. Yes. All right.
thanks
Thank
for
you, everybody.
with me, DC, and all y'all out there in Vuland.
Yes. All y'all's. LJ, this is where you rescue us?
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The View.